For years, I spent time in the correctional centers, and I witnessed the rise and fall of a union, the rise and fall of a Department of Justice correctional system, and the rise and fall of a business. So, with that being said, you know, the Department of Justice is what it is. It's a business. And we as inmates are the property being sold to this business. But with that being said, you know, that's where we need to reform at. There's things in there that can be changed right now. For the simple fact that we talk about the money spent in our prison systems, right? But they don't advocate for inmates making money. They do.
Tell the truth.
They give you a job and they charge you. And I used to make the most money I could in the prison system at a 5 rate, which was roughly 50 cents. You make a 6 rate, you make $1, but I made 50 cents an hour. 50 cents an hour. On the average, I make 25 cents an hour. $8 a week. $8 every 2 weeks. If a person can make things in prison and sell them in prison, he also makes a side hustle, what we call a side hustle. But if every single inmate was allowed to have a hobby in the correctional center that advocated for small businesses, created small businesses, and allowed them to buy from small businesses, it would change the whole correctional department center because of the business that would come into it. We're talking about handmade crafts by people that I know have been doing this for years. You know, they've been taxed. They've been taxed for everything they make. They're taxed for their time. They're taxed for everything. Prisoners are being taxed. How are you going to tax somebody that's making 25 cents an hour? How you take 7 cents and you apply that to whatever they owe? And some people owe 100% of their taxes and they don't get nothing in there. They surviving on free envelopes and 2 pages of paper with a pen every week. That's what you get every 2 weeks. You know what I mean? You gotta sign an indigent slip for that. So they keep us down that way. And they also keep us down in other ways. So they create that environment for us to make ourselves hurt each other. They don't want reform, they want obedience. They want to take things from you when you act up. They want to make you feel like you're less of an individual. And then when you get out, there's not much to get out to. You know, for most people that don't have a network or a reliable source of support, fall right back into the system, man. And we end up right back into the system. But the system was so corrupt at one time. In 2016, the governor told the head of the Department of Justice that they needed to stop revocating people. I was one of those people in 2016 that got revocated for a burglary that I never even involved in, that I was proved later on phony, but I did 2 years in it, in Green Bay Maximum, and I almost got stabbed to death 3 weeks before I went home, 36-man gang fight. I watched the guards beat someone to death right in front of me, drag his body right down the hallway. I watched people check in, check out, walking up to the cell, asking how their day was going. He hung it up. And it stays with me, you know, 10 years in there. 6 of that years were in that segregation box back there. 2014 was the hottest year in Wisconsin on record that year. On record, 100 and something degrees up. And in our cell, it was 1.5 inches of water. So thick because the concrete was sweating from the walls, the ceiling, and the floor, and it created puddles in everybody's cell. The windows didn't open. They didn't allow the windows open because of a technicality. And we sued the United States for that. Cruel and unusual punishment. People sit in that cell over 100-degree weather, no proper ventilation, no way to open up the window. People died. Things like that is what creates hurt. It creates, because these are human beings. They ain't no dog. You know, and even dogs get treated better than human beings. Because I've been in a humane society and I've seen them dogs get treated way better than people in prison. I understand that people, you know, do wrong things, but I was in there for 4 years and almost died twice. The first time was on account of inmates. The second time was on account of negligence from the guards. You know, because that's what the system wanted. The system wanted to break me and make me into a number. 391321. That's what my number was. Never changed. Every single day. That's what my number was. I wasn't a name. I wasn't Two Featherz unless there was another inmate talking to me. They all knew me by Two Featherz. We knew each other by our government name. That was a blessing. If I called you by your government name and you didn't whoop my ass, man, that's love. But the reform, the justice reform that we need, the things that we need in prison is to stop the violence in there. Stop treating us like we can't do better because we're trying to do better. I was trying to do better. And what did I get for it? I got a foot in the face. They told me, man, you ain't good enough. You're just gonna be a no good Indian like all the rest of them, a drunk. You're gonna be a nothing when you get out. We'll see you when you get back. Half those guards laughed at me when I was leaving Green Bay Maximum because I was a bad egg. I was a bad kid. I was in Max for a reason. Half them guards laughed at me when I was leaving because they didn't think I was getting out. You ain't getting out, you're a fucking lifer. I'm like, bro, I'll go home in 1 week, I need my boxes. And these guards laughed at me until they really found out, holy shit, you are going home, get him some boxes. Then the way they treated me changed. You see, because when I was dying, they thought I wasn't there for life, they thought I was just another number. So they let me sit in that segregation. I was shitting blood, dying in that cell, in that segregational cell. And I had to shit into a cup because the guards didn't believe me. When the nurses do around once a week. So I was lucky to catch that nurse that day. I said, give me a moment of your time. These guards don't believe I'm shitting blood. Can I shit in a cup for you? You see this cup is empty, right? I'm not gonna cover up nothing. She's like, go ahead, you shit in the cup. I'll make sure to push the button for you. So I did what I did and I showed her. Within an hour, they had me in an observation cell in a HSU. The nurse lost her job for doing what she did. She went above and beyond the call of duty and helped me get the help I need. They got me in emergency out of that prison for a couple of days. I sat in the ICU over at St. Mary's and I got better. But when I got back, there was still animosity because those guards were trying to kill me. They were trying to kill me for what had happened before that, when it transpired before that. Because see, after that gang fight, I left, I got out and came back to the same prison. So when I come back on the yard, people were thinking I was just getting out of sight. Hence the reason they thought, hey, man, this motherfucker's in here for life. What he was doing in here before that, and I'm not gonna talk about the bad things I had to do in there because there's sometimes we have to do things in life that we're not proud of, and that's where all that guilt and all that pain comes from. That's why we do the things we do, why we hurt the way we hurt. But to be able to talk about them like I am now is to express it like it's okay. Because I had to do shit in there that I'm not proud of. And I hurt people in there that I'm not proud of. And I was blessed to go back to that same prison where I hurt those people and apologize to them. To apologize to the man that killed my baby and my baby mother. To shake his hand. I shook that man's hand after he killed my wife and my son inside of her. 4 months old. But whatever you believe in, what I believe in told me to forgive and let go. Why? Because it was my only chance to ever say that to that man. And I went there with my people and surrounded him in that corner, and I told everybody before I went there because I had a chance to stay there for the rest of my life. And I chose not to. And I went and shook that man's hand and I said, you don't know me, but I forgive you. And he knew then. Because he knew what I was there for. When he seen all those people around, I said, I forgive you, bro. I won't forget it, but I forgive you. And I cried. And I shook his hand and I walked away. And it's okay now. It's all right. Because that's the things that we have to go through in order to be here today. To stand here and say, you know what, they didn't break me. I might have felt broken at the time. I might have felt like I lost it all. But when I was laying there with nothing left, all I had was me. All I had was my Creator. There was nobody in there with me but that voice And it told me don't give up. And for some odd reason I didn't. And I get to come here today and I got to meet this beautiful woman over here. She told me a story about her son. And I related to that so bad because that fucking box scares me. Why? Because I know the animal that lives in that box. He's in here somewhere. I put him there and I put him in that box, man. I don't want him to get up no more. Because that's not who I am. That's the little boy that was hurt inside of me that had been done wrong, that just needed to get by, man. Just needed to survive. But I check on him every day, and I open up that trap, and I make sure he's fed, and I make sure he's loved. And I can't let him out of the cage anymore because he's a bad person, you know? We all have that in us, all that little hate that dictates how we choose to treat people. And that's why I learned to overcome that. Why the people that are watching us, this animal that they portrayed me to be, overcome that hate, to forgive those people that I hurt, and to get forgiven for being that person who hurt them. To forgive the man that hurt me to my core, that shook me to my core. That's what it's about. It's about forgiveness, but not forgetting what they did to us. It's about teaching them how to be better so they don't have to forgive us for what they're doing. Yeah, we're all criminals in one way or another, you know. I keep hearing it and I can't see much less, but the only good person is the bad person who never got caught. And that's the God honest truth, because we all have our demons, anybody that went to prison, anybody that went to jail says, man, you know what? I'm glad I only got this much time, because if they would have caught me for the stuff I did, I'd be sitting here for life. You know, there's a lot of us that can sit here and say that. And that's the God honest truth. It's our change that I had went through, that I had seen, that I can help with reforming. Teach our leaders to be better, because our leaders are falling apart right now. And I don't even want to get into that. But the truth is right there in the pudding, man. You're messing up. And you're messing up to a point where we all notice. If it takes someone like me to help you change, all you got to do is ask. We're right here. We are right here. Still going through it every single day. I'm still living in that box. Even though I've been out, I'm still there. And the scariest thing for me is knowing that there's a possibility for me to go back there just because of the color of my skin, the feathers I wear on my head, and the way I portray myself as a human being. I'm up here trying to show you guys that there's hope in everything we do. There's a way to change everything we do as a person. And if we can inspire that in others, like I said, it only takes 10 people to change the world. All you need is 10 people to believe in something that you are doing. And if it's change for the world, them 10 people, 10 people, times 10 times 10, it's in the Bible. 10 times 10, 10 to the power of 10 squared. It's the faith you have in that person to spread the message. And that's what I'm giving today. I'm giving that hope for a change. I want to show that hope for a change because I didn't think I could change. And somehow I found it. And it took something that I went through that I have a hard time still talking about to this day because I do my best to forget it. But I can't forget it. I can forgive myself for how I treated that little boy inside and how much I hurt him. I can forgive those that mistreated me in that prison system, but I can't forget it because there's people in there that I know that are still getting treated the same way. 23-hour lockups. When COVID hit, 4 weeks, a month, one shower a month. And that was if you were lucky, because they went 4 cells a day, and there's 40 cells on one tier, and there's 4 tiers. So a month is usually what it took for you to get a shower. Just one shower. 1.5 is usually the going rate of your showers. But to imagine that, to sit in that cell without being able to move, sitting there with a man, life in prison. I ain't got life, but I'm sitting there with a man who's 3 lifetime sentences plus 80. Man, you're never going home. I was scared of that man because I knew what he could do to me, to what I didn't want to do back to him if I had to have the option. And this man he was my enemy. But for some odd reason, my enemy was in a cell with me, and that showed the progression of how I was able to transform that hate between a rival gang member that had an opportunity to kill me, but instead took the time to learn from me. And that's what I mean about change, because I went in there and changed people the way I'm changing now. I changed everything that I needed to change and leave it up to everybody else in this room. This is what we do every day, man. We make a time to make a change, to make it different, and to just have fun when we're doing it. And I don't want no BS anymore. I don't want to have to deal with my looming cases over my head that they have no merit against. I've been going to court for 5 years for a case that stands no water or no ground on a factual basis. There is no crime I committed, but yet I'm on a felony bond right now for over $3,000. And I lost my house, I lost my van to try to make it to my court dates because I lived in Milwaukee at the time. Long story short is, that's what I mean. The ever repetitious cycle of me still going through it because of the nationality and the color of my skin. But it's okay, because now I can promote the change. I'm promoting it right now by saying, hey, you know what? Let's find a way to make it different. Let's find a way to make it better. There's a hope for our future, and the hope is us. Because it ain't what we say or what we do, it's how we make each other feel and how we're remembered. That's how we were remembered every day, man. Man, I didn't know that man's name, but he fucking spoke to me. He said something to me that made me think of it, and that's all it takes. Because then that little spark is what ignites yours to pass it on to the next person, to teach children how to be a better person. I teach kids every day on how to be just like me, you know, and I teach them how to forage for plants and teach them about medicine. Why? Because I'm going through something that is killing me, and the hospitals can do nothing for it. But I went out and searched and found my own cure, and I'm standing here 7 months to the day that I should already be dead. So there's no more tumors, no more cysts. My symptoms are pretty much cured. So if that's possible, and I got enough time to be able to help make a change, then by all means, I'm gonna spend every single moment of my time to try to help change this. And I'll thank you guys for coming here today to try to help us change it, because this is what we need. If y'all believe in me and believe that there's other people like that, just like me, that are struggling to want to change, struggling, that are needing to change, that are ready for the change that can make it better. We just got to reach out to them. And that's what I mean. You change 10 people, you can change the world. Because now you have a functional group of support people that are there for the change. I mean, it's a hope for a better future. We're in the darkness right now, and we are spirits of light shining in that darkness. And we guide the way for other spirits. And stars in the sky, that's where we come from. That's what my teachers have said. We come from those stars. That we are a star inside of a body. You know, Kamashima breathed that star into our body when we took the choice to come from that nation and experience what this is in all its actuality, you know. And the world is bigger than what we know, and that's what I mean. So our change determines our future. We can sit here and watch it go by like it's been going by. We can get up and start changing it though. Like, hey, you know what? I got some input to put this. I got something to say. I have an idea. That's all it takes. One idea, one person, one thought. And I thank you guys so much for your time.
Yeah!